What's up, ladies, gents, degenerates? I'm Brian Edwards, majorwager.com. Let's talk some week one college football and let's focus in on LSU minus 4.5 at UCLA. I think LSU is poised for a nice bounce back season, probably going to win 9 or 10 games. Unfortunately, it won't be a championship season. They've got to play at Bama. Although they do get A&M, Auburn, Florida at home. Um, do have to go to Ole Miss the week after the Florida game, and at Kentucky, sandwiched between Auburn and Florida, is a tough spot situationally. I just don't think Kentucky's got enough offense there. But more specifically, let's talk the UCLA game. So anytime you go out west, that's a red flag. Um, Always tough to travel 2 time zones, especially young kids in college who don't make trips like that very often. But the fact that it's in week one, excuse me, rather than in the week to week grind, like when Notre Dame and USC usually play each other in late October or early November. Actually, they have played that game toward the end of the year at times. Not this year, though. It's a Stanford game for Notre Dame that's at the end of the year. But my point being, if the road trip is the week one game, I don't think it's that big a deal. If it comes, after you've made a couple of road trips and you just played Saturday and you got to leave, that in the week to week grind, I think it's more of a big deal. So I wave that red flag. It's week one. It's nationally televised game, obviously. I'm not worried about them having to travel in this spot. I think LSU at -7 or fewer is a gift, and it's -4.5. Okay. Let's first talk about how LSU was completely set up to fail last year. They had 14 players taken in the NFL draft, and that did not even include Randy Moss's son, Thaddeus Moss, who had 41 catches, 0 drops, and 9 touchdowns in 2019. So 15 very good players were gone. They only returned 5 starters, and then one of them, Jamar Chase, who ended up being the first round pick in the to the Bengals and with number 5 pick overall this past spring, he opted out of the entire season. Several defensive starters opted out as well. Now Neil Farrell ended up coming back, but he didn't start playing until game 3 or 4. So basically, at the start of the season, you only had 3 starters back, and I think it Kerry Vincent. Was he the other defender that I think opted out? Yeah, and he was an All SEC guy. So everything was set up to fail for LSU, and then Miles Brennan plays really good the first 3 weeks. I mean, they started 1-2, but it wasn't. It was on the defense. The offense scored 34, 41, and 41 in Miles Brennan's 3 games, and he had 11-3 TDI&T ratio. He threw for 1,112 yards, and again, only 3 games. But then he gets a shoulder injury, and he's out for the season. So the rest of the schedule, LSU had to navigate 7 SEC-only opponents with nothing but true freshmen at quarterback. Finley and Max Johnson, Brad Johnson's son. Now, Finley had a big arm, but with Brennan coming back and Max Johnson getting the last 2 starts and winning at Florida and beating Ole Miss in a shootout 53-48, Finley decided to transfer to Auburn. So it's going to be either Max Johnson or Miles Brennan. I don't care who it is because both of them can play. Max Johnson, 8-1 TDI&T ratio last year. His 2 starts, they scored 37 at Florida and they scored 53 against Ole Miss. Granted, Ole Miss and Florida's defenses were atrocious last year. But so LSU brings back 18 of 22 starters. Cade York is one of the best kickers in the country. Phil Steele's unit rankings for the SEC, he's got LSU's receivers as number 3. He had the O-line number 3 as well, but they lost Dare Rosenthal, who was a preseason All-SEC guy in Phil Steele's mag. They lost him to transfer to Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. So probably not the 3rd best O-line in the SEC, but probably still a top 5. And if you're top 5 O-line in the SEC, that's pretty darn good. The secondary is ranked second in the SEC by Phil Steele, and their special teams are ranked third. The secondary, Derek Stingley, probably the best cover corner in America. They add Mike Jones, stud linebacker from Clemson. All the Pro Football Focus college stats that they use had Mike Jones as the best linebacker in pass coverage in the country last season. He also, obviously brings in experience, winning, etc. So 9 starters back on defense, but you can really say 10 because they add Jones. They also got Major Burns, a former 4-star recruit, a transfer from Georgia, to add some depth in that secondary. And Eli Ricks, as a true freshman last year, he was terrific. He had 4 interceptions. He had a pick six against my Gators that was enormous. He had 5 pass breakups, 20 tackles. So that secondary is going to be very good. They've got Keyshawn Butte, who has a true freshman last year, only 10 games, 45 catches, 735 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And remember, they won those games at Florida and versus Ole Miss, playing a ton of young guys. I think Stingley was out both of those games. I know he was out for the Florida game. And oh gosh, who was about to say also was out? Eric Gilbert had quit the team, well, and he's still gone. He's at Georgia now, and Terrace Marshall had opted out. So they got those 2 wins without Terrace Marshall, and without Gilbert's gone anyway, and Marshall's gone anyway as well. But only 14 Letterman have been lost. And look, let's talk UCLA now. UCLA 10-21 straight up, 14-17 against the spread during Chip Kelly's tenure that has been abysmal through 3 games. And 13 of those 21 outright L's have come by margins of 9 points or more. Now, were they a little better last year? Sure. They go 3-4 though. I mean, it's not great going against Pac-12 only competition. Now, they were better though. Their 4 losses were all 1-possession games. But I mean, my gosh, this is year 3 of Chip Kelly's tenure. He hasn't recruited well. They haven't played well. I mean, Jim Mora was getting top 15, always top 20 recruiting classes during his tenure there. Kelly is not. And look, I don't want to piss all over UCLA. A lot of people think they're going to be a lot better this year. I do think they probably go to a bowl game, the first in Kelly's 4-year stretch there. They only lost 7 Lettermen. They're among the tops in the country in returning production, returning starters. They returned 20 of 22 starters. But again, I just gave you what this team was the last 3 years. This team's not very good. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's okay, but he's not as good as Brennan or Johnson, in my opinion. And look, this is going to be a game won in the trenches, the O-line, D-line matches, which are mismatches in favor of LSU. I can't believe this number's single digits. It's only 4.5 right now. It's an absolute gift at 7 or fewer. LSU's going to win this game by double digits. There you go. So LSU minus 4.5. Get on it. And it's only minus 3.5 at FanDuel if you have a FanDuel account. I'm Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com. I'm over and out.